We're short on employees. Again. So we're gonna have to shut down the line. Sorry.
Happy Friday, everybody. Alex, how are you today?
I am doing well. Again, whenever we do these on Friday, it just feels good to, know that the weekend's coming. Had a long week of, just working hard, and now I'm ready to play hard. So looking forward to it.
You know the best thing about Friday for me?
What's that?
That it's only 2 more days until Monday. People hate when
and then you're
that.
back in it.
Okay, so Alex, everyone that's watching, jam-packed show today. We are going to talk about remote work and how that affects the different generations. Alex here is a Gen Xer. We won't hold that against him. I'm an old millennial. I'm young, but an old millennial. And so it'll be good to get a different perspective between the two of us. But we'll talk about Gen Z. We'll talk about the baby boomers. We'll have a lot of fun. And then we'll spend a lot of today's show on AI in the workplace, specifically with HR. I'd like to interview Alex here about how he's using it, the pros and cons. We're going to talk about hallucinations from AI, which Alex, not too familiar with. But before we get started, I do want to highlight real quick for job seekers out there. I am hiring for a salesperson, a business development manager in Utah County. And so, pay is negotiable based on experience. Great company, great culture. Would love to consider you and hope you'll consider Your Employment Solutions. You don't have to have staffing experience. That is a plus. But someone that's got previous sales experience, account management experience with a proven track record. I want to hear from you. Please send me your resume. You can send it at steve@youremploymentsolutions.com. It's right there on the screen. So you can just pause for a second, snapshot that, and let's get connected. Let's have, go meet up for coffee, or we can talk over the phone and see if this might be a good home for you. So you can apply, directly on our website, or you can go to Steve at Your Employment, or email me your resume. That's the fastest way. steve@youremploymentsolutions.com.
Yeah, I think to put a plug in for you, Steve, on that, from the HR perspective, we've been bringing on some new executives and filling new positions, and all the feedback has been, this is such a great culture here at Yes, that this has been a good environment for them, and they have enjoyed coming over to this company. So if you're interested in a fun culture and somewhere where you have an environment to grow, this is your place. This is for you.
This is the place. We are the best kept secret in the staffing industry, right, Alex?
That's right, and we're looking to disrupt it. So
okay, so let's start with our first topic, which I'm excited to talk about, and that is remote work, the remote work revolution, and how it affects the different generations. It's when COVID hit, everybody got sent home, and many people still worked, but they never came back to the office. And then you had this big, callback for a lot of people to come back into the office, and many people were like, I'm more productive at home. Like I don't want to go back into the office. The water cooler days are gone. Let's move on. And then depending on which generation you're part of, you may be like, I don't get that. Like, get back into the office. Let's share our germs again and talk over the water cooler. And so there's this debate, remote work versus in person, or a hybrid model. I can't tell you, anytime I post a remote work job like into the job boards, I mean, it goes crazy. You get 1 million applications in the first day. So, going back down memory lane, Alex, do you remember the first time you got sent home to work remote?
And I love this subject. And first, I want to recognize here too. I'm live here in the Ogden office. We have multiple different locations that we're going to broadcast from, and that way you can see, what our different spaces here. For those of you that are viewing, but this is our Ogden location, and talking about working from home. When I went into COVID, HR, this is a big, big deal for HR departments, directors, leaders, CHROs. How are we going to implement this in a way that is conducive to our company and also to our employees? How do we provide all of this support? And luckily, I was working at a college at that time. So it's fairly easy, because all the workers there, office workers, we didn't have any light industrial or any of that kind of situation to deal with. But when you're looking at staffing, and that's the world that we're in, Yes is looking at that staffing, and I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of the different area managers, branch managers, and these guys are, you said I'm Gen X, which is true. I learned a lot about remote work at that time, but I think the millennials, so your generation, Steve, and also our generation Zs, I think it was an easier process for them. I think, it was still trying, but they didn't have certain gaps in technology. It was easier for them. But if you look at your construction workers and your line workers as well, my reports from the area and branch managers here at Yes was they were able to support their employees in a functional way where they still had that protection of PPE and different things like that.
Yeah.
So they were able to still, work, have meaningful employment. But yeah, it was, I think for all generations across the board, Steve, it was such a trial for everybody.
Yeah, not all positions can be remote. You can't be remote on a construction job site. Doesn't work very well. Or you can't bring the production line into your living room. By the way, don't believe those scam posts in the job boards that say work from home and box candy from Amazon. Just don't buy into it. It's not real. Doesn't happen. It'd be nice. That'd be fun, but it's not happening.
Oh yeah. Those scams were rampant. In fact, my wife, she was buying a cat online because she wanted a companion, to keep her company while she was working. Well, it turned out to be a scam. So yeah, there's lots of that going on.
Dang. I still remember, Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank. You see him do his interviews for, big news organizations, and you see behind the scenes, like on Instagram or LinkedIn, and he's got his button-up shirt and tie, and he's got his jacket, his blazer, and then he's wearing shorts and like pink socks.
And I think, Steve, most of us were doing that, right? I know I was doing that remotely. And the generations too, they do differ. They're like, no, I'm not doing the shorts. That's just not my thing. I'm going to show up in my shirt and tie. But I think our generation Z and millennials were like, no, I'm a little bit looser with that stuff.
So let's start at the earliest, like baby boomers. How do you think they've adapted or struggled with today's, remote work and the technology, having that Zoom fatigue versus, in-person meeting fatigue in the past? How do you think baby boomers have been handling the remote work?
It was a big adaptation. So at the time I was working at Ensign College. Some of you here in Utah may be familiar with that. Ensign College is a church college here in Utah. And we get a lot of volunteers for this church, right? That would come in and volunteer and do different functions. Anyway, we were dealing with the intake, of these new employees that were volunteering and coming in, and they were the baby boomers. They're your older generation.
Interesting.
Some of them, some of them were savvy, and some of them weren't. And the learning curve on using the technology that would allow you to work remotely was a lot harder for them to grapple. But it was fun in the sense that you had to work with them to build their confidence and say, hey, do you know what, you can do this.
Yeah.
You can do this.
Yeah, I think I've recognized that as well. Some baby boomers struggle with technology because they started their career before Google was invented, right? They still had the dial-up, AOL to get to the internet and and make sure you get off of the phone line so I can connect to the internet. And many have adapted and learned the technology. Technology is made to be easy to use most of the time. But yeah, when you grow up a certain way and then 40 years later it's all changed, it's hard to adapt sometimes. And then
My mom was, yeah, no, go ahead, Steve, go ahead.
you say, and then those Gen Xers, poke fun at the baby boomers for not getting with the times.
Well, and we thought we were ahead of the curve, right? Like my mom, she was actually one of the volunteers, for the local church here, and she had to learn some technology. She had to learn how to use it, and she felt so intimidated by it. She just was scared of it, and coming in, it's like, all right, I'm a Gen Xer. Hey, mom, I can help you out. It's not until you meet these Gen Zs and these millennials, which Steve, you and I have talked about AI, right? And you just opened my whole world to specific, chat GBTs that you can build.
Yeah.
And there's so much, I think, to the revolution now of technology that everybody in any industry is going to have to learn how to adapt. Even if you're in construction, let's talk about our associates in construction or some of these front end jobs. There is going to be components where they're going to need to learn how to use this technology, not only in COVID situations, but just to be more proficient in their jobs.
Yeah, 100%. Well, before we get to AI, I think out of all the generations, I think when it comes to really embracing remote work and having an appreciation for it, I think your generation, Gen X, actually embraced it more than any other generation.
I would be interested to hear why.
I just think they've just found that appreciate because they spent most of their career never working remote and then having this unexpected call to go everyone to be sent home. They just found they were more productive. Maybe they didn't love the whole water cooler drama every single day anymore, all the distractions in the workplace, and just a lot of the Gen Xers that I know that work from home, they don't want to come back. They like that freedom. They don't like being someone on the back, breathing down the back of their neck. I don't know. It's interesting. But you're not working remote. You're right there in the office. So kudos to you.
Yeah. And I like that. I actually like that capability where I can move it remotely. I've got all this technology. I think a lot of times you've got different groups, and you'll see it in any generation where there's a mistrust of too many digital tools. I know my dad's one of them. He does not believe in Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is just, he feels like the government can watch him, and so he's got hardwired Cat5 cable all over his house. I'm like, Dad, you could use Wi-Fi. But he just doesn't want to trust that, and we're all in different places.
There is a mistrust for boomers for sure on technology. Yeah, I could see that. I think, millennials have really, the older millennials, guilty. They've pioneered a lot of these, a lot of these digital transformations. They've also embraced and shaped, reshaped remote work. I think they prefer like emojis and GIFs over the water cooler now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that makes things hard.
Yeah, and I think your Gen Z, they're just adapting to whatever's happening in their current environment because they're the newest generation that's been entering the workforce, and I think they only know what they know. They just know what's happening right now, and that is remote work, hybrid, and in office is kind of a mix of the three, and they're just trying to find their way, right?
And you know what happens from that, Steve, from an HR perspective, what you see as far as employee relations from that? Do you know what you'll see in the workforce from that?
Tell me.
What happens is because they're so used to doing virtual meetings, they have a hard time of in-person connection.
Ooh,
They really, really struggle in those areas with that.
I never thought about that. That makes sense though, especially because they grew up on devices, right? So
Yeah,
that just amplifies it.
dating,
Dating.
meetings, school, because they were in COVID, and for how long that went.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, kids graduated from home virtually. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to see, you can only, guess what's going to happen in the future with the Generation Z, and what they'll bring to the table and produce, and what kind of big changes they make, and disruptions in our industries, like, yet to be determined, I think.
yeah, yeah, and I know you told me this is Fritter Friday, right? We want to keep it light,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna throw in Mental Health May, right? That
Uh,
Yeah,
yes.
circling back to that, it's such a big deal. For our associates, frontline workers, construction, whatever you're doing, mental health is such a big deal. And when you're using more of those virtual tools, you're eliminating connection. And we're trying to be better here at Yes about that connection piece, letting our associates know they're connected to us. They're a part of Yes, and we care about their mental health. So I had to put a plug in there for that.
Yeah, we're
So
we're gonna do a show here pretty soon about mental health. We got a special guest that we'll be inviting. That I think people will appreciate. All right. Well, let's move into AI. From a HR standpoint, and we can talk about a couple other things with AI, but you recently have been really integrating AI into your day-to-day workflow, and I think from an HR standpoint, some HR leaders are probably really tuned into AI, but I bet a lot have just not spent much time in it. So tell us how you've utilized AI to help you in your role.
I've worked in the construction industry. I've worked in higher ed. So when I was an HR business partner with Canyon Pipeline, you had a lot of your construction workers out there, which typically they'll say, I'm just computer illiterate. I'll hear that word a lot. I'm computer illiterate. I don't know how to do this. But you'll see it in other industries as well. I've seen it in higher ed when I was at Enzyme, but also here at Yes, where even some of our different demographics or Gen Zs are struggling to grab onto AI because it's so advanced. It's moving so quickly.
Yeah.
What I've done with our leadership in different areas, especially when I was working at Canyon, is I would see, let's say um, one of our foremen working on a project and they're using basic things. I'm like, hey, let me help you. Let me show you this AI thing here that can help you with your writing. And I've done with our recruiters here too,
Yeah.
hey, there's a tool here that can help you with this. And really, I think more that companies embrace AI, they're going to be more successful and productive. I heard a quote not too long ago, and I think it was from the Harvard Business School, is that AI isn't going to replace your positions entirely, but those that know how to use AI will replace your
Right.
positions. So, don't shy away from it. Don't be like, oh,
Learn
I
it.
don't know, it's just too confusing. And I don't want to scare anybody out there that's watching this. But what I want to do is have you open up to, hey, maybe let's tinker around with AI a little bit and learn how to use it within your day-to-day type of work.
Yeah, you mentioned you've been helping the recruiters. The really cool thing you can do with AI, like a Chat GPT, for example, or Microsoft Copilot, is you can take, think about this as a recruiter. You can take the job description and upload it into AI. Then you can take the candidate's resume and upload it into AI and just write a couple prompts like compare the two, and please come up with questions that are that addresses the red flags in the resume. I want you to point out all the relatables between the resume and job description and the things that are missing, and come up with those questions so we can dive in, which is really helpful because now you have your regular questions that you ask, but there's a lot of times you're looking at a resume and you just miss things because they might be two page long things that you miss, and those blind spots. AI can help you acknowledge those blind spots so you can choose to address them or not. I find it really helpful. And then what I'll do after an interview is I'll take all my notes and I'll plug it back in and go, okay, recap this interview for me, and tell me the pros and cons based on my notes, and what should be my next steps moving forward. And within seconds, it's got some great advice. So I love using tools like ChatGPT to accomplish that.
Yeah. And a lot of companies too, right? From an HR perspective, they'll think liability, and sometimes they'll overreact and be like, whoa, we're going to have all these policies in place. We're not sure about this. We're concerned. We don't want to get any information out there that we don't, want out on the web. And it's really about understanding and educating yourself and having policies that work for your company too. That one
That's
where
right.
you're still protected, you can keep your liability, but also allowing your employees to learn and engage in this new tool. Because I firmly believe, and SHRM's even back this up, is this is a very advanced tool that is beneficial for any business, but also in HR. So I'm not advocating to say, just go full blown into it, make sure you have your processes, but also don't go on the other extreme where you just completely don't allow any of your workers
Yeah.
to use that technology or tool.
Yeah. AI is definitely here. It's not going away, and billions have been invested into AI. And so, yeah, I think you make a good point. Is you don't be afraid to learn it. In fact, when it comes to the jobs that are being replaced by AI, they're being replaced by people that understand and utilize AI. And there's real safety concerns, and you've got to, and it's privacy and security. And so you got to be conscious of that. You've got to be real thoughtful, because you could be exposing your organization to some unwanted threats. So that was a good point. You got to be really careful with those things. And you should partner with your IT director when you're looking at ways to integrate AI into your workflow every day.
Yeah, and it's so accessible now too. I mean, it's almost on everything. Everybody's creating their own AI components, even cell phones now. I heard Apple is behind in sales because they haven't grappled onto an AI type phone. It's just going to be integrated everywhere. It looks like. Are you an Apple fan?
That's why I'm laughing. I'm grinning because I'm laughing. Like, yeah, that's because Apple's always 10 years behind everybody else.
Yeah. I have an Apple. So
Sorry, I couldn't
I'm
help
one of
myself.
those. I'm one of those guys.
You're a Gen Xer. It explains everything, Alex.
Yeah.
I'm going to make something up. The highest percentage of iPhone users are Gen Xers. I'm just saying it out loud right now. Don't have any data to back it up, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct.
Oh, yeah. We'll talk more about this offline, Steve. Yeah, we'll figure this out.
We got to keep things simple for you, Alex.
I appreciate that. Thank you. In my old age, I appreciate that.
But really, AI, there's lots of use case studies. One thing early on when I was adopting AI, I had 14 direct reports, and I had to get all of their performance evaluations done over the next 4 days. I was really, procrastinating. I was up against a deadline, and I never occurred to me hey, I wonder if AI could assist with me in helping me write these performance evaluations. And so I took the individual goals and competencies for my evaluation, and I put it into AI. And then I took the self-evaluation for my team members, and I had them look at each other and talk to each other. And then I inputted all the results, and asked it to write up a formal, performance evaluation. And oh my gosh, Alex, it was beautifully written. Like, I mean, it just hit every mark spot on, and it saved me days of work. I got it all done in a few hours. And that was my first window into AI, going, you know what? This is a very useful tool to help us be more efficient in our workflows.
Yeah, yeah, and you want to be careful, right? You want to make sure as you're doing that, and I think of this as writer's block. You're like, oh, I can't think of exactly what I'm trying to say here, and so you put it into AI like you did, and then you take those pieces and you make it yours, where you add in your pieces and your feedback. And I think that's where I think a lot of companies sometimes are hesitant because they're like, oh, this isn't your content. Um, I think it's just a misunderstanding of that. But
Yeah.
as far as staffing, in thinking about this in the staffing world, even on the front lines with our associates, it's going to have a big impact because they'll be able to solve problems. They can
That's right.
just go into Chat GBT, similar to what you're trying to do with the evaluations, and come up with solutions to problems.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah. I mean, I use it all the time for that very reason. Like, here's my problem. Help coach me, find my blind spots. Help me, look at this in a different way. And most of the time, it points out the blind spots, and I go, "Ooh, that's a great point." But there's definitely a caveat here when it comes to using AI. Is AI is known for hallucinating. Have you heard that term before?
Well, and we were talking about that, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
because yeah, when AI was coming out, and I wasn't as quick, I think, as some of the other generations, that jumped right onto it. But I heard hallucination. I'm like, what does that mean? It's hallucinating. Does that just mean it's tripping on digital acid? Like, what does that mean?
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, it's a language model, and it does its own thing. Even with the parameters in there, and sometimes it just makes up stuff, and it sounds so factual, like you have no reason to question it, but you need to. You need to question it.
And I learned that, right? I've gone to different HR seminars and conferences, and I always attend the AI ones because I'm just so intrigued. So I'll go to all of them and go and network with the facilitators of those discussions and make those connections. So I'm learning what those words are. Where it hallucinates, it comes up with information that's not actual. And I'm thinking now, as it's becoming more available, is sharing that with our employees. Hey, use this as a tool, but please understand it may not be 100%. So make sure that you double check that.
Yeah, my memory is a little fuzzy on this, but I remember reading a news article of a law firm back east that, they come to the judge with these, case studies of why, it should apply, the law should apply to their client, and come to find out those are just made up stories and statistics and names and companies that like never happened. That's
Yeah.
hallucinating.
And I have a good friend of mine. He works for the Labor Commission for the feds, and we were talking about AI, and he's like, it has been the best thing because he can look up all of these EEOC policies. He can look up all of these things, that um, would be harder to find online.
Yeah.
But he's learned how to use it in his position in a way that works, where he can validate, what's he's looking up, and I do the same as well. But again, it's such a new technology, and I kind of wonder, each company is different, and they try and look if it's a culture fit as well,
Yeah.
utilizing that.
Yeah. Well, and to further the point of why people need to embrace it is, you've got Microsoft, for example, that partnered with OpenAI, ChatGPT, and have integrated it into their Microsoft suite. In fact, if you buy a new Microsoft computer, it will be fully integrated with all the new AI tools. And so, when you get an email from a colleague or whomever, you've got Copilot saying, "Hey, would you like me to draft a response for you? Or would you like me to coach you on a response?" Right? Which I really like the coach option because it's personalized, it's me, and it's just helping me, formulate my point. But you could imagine, not that this will happen, or maybe it will, maybe it won't, but it gets to a point where it's just Copilot talking to each other. So you send me an email through Copilot, I respond through Copilot. It's like AI is talking to each other, and we're just hands off. I don't like that idea. It's fun, it's interesting, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, we can try it, Steve. You and I can do it. We can just
let's start a new corporate initiative just through AI, and
yeah. We could do a story, and start out a storyline and see where it goes back and forth. And I think going back to that culture comment, is your company embrace that culture? Does it embrace new technology? Does it embrace new things? And you can have fun with it, like you and me creating stories back and forth with Copilot.
Yeah.
I think it's that approach.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's worth investigating and learning and adapting. If you use AI and adapt with it, you're going to be better positioned to really contribute to this workforce and to the greater good. And if you're not embracing it, you're going to have an uphill battle. We're not completely there yet, but it's coming.
Yep.
It's coming. Yeah. Well, I think this is the longest we've gone on a live, 31 minutes. It was all fun. Any last minute thoughts, Alex?
No, I think, just talking about these things to different generations, talking about AI, and especially, in our current positions and staffing, we're looking at leveraging and using these tools and resources to better our associates' lives and to be creating more resources for our associates to be successful, and finding long-term meaningful employment. And that's really, at the end of the day, what it's about. It's changing those lives and making those differences. So.
Yeah, you make a good point there. I've helped a couple people with their resumes. I shouldn't say I've helped. I facilitated the help by using AI to help improve their resume, so it can really, really, tell their story. It's hard to express what it's like in a day in a life under Steven's leadership on my resume. So if I can prompt ChatGPT to go, hey, take all my experience and make help people see a day in the life under my leadership on my resume, it's gonna do that for you and make it more digestible for someone that's gonna be considering you for future employment. So I think there's some really good uses out there.
I agree.
All right. Well, everybody, appreciate your time. Next week, we're going to have a couple shows. One of them will be with a leadership trainer. So that one's going to be fun. I'll share more later about that. And then we're setting up an interview. I don't know if it'll be next week or the week after to discuss men's mental health, which I'm really looking forward to that discussion.
Yeah, we got a special guest for that. Really, really excited. John from it's a Hair Brotherhood, but yeah, it's going to be really good to have a discussion with him about men's mental health. So
that's awesome. All right. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thanks,
Fritter Friday.
Six months ago, I get a call from Steve Farrell, who wants to talk about partnering with Yes for our labor needs. It would
change your approach to staffing.
Change my approach to staffing?
We're short on employees. Again. So we're going to have to shut down a line. Sorry.
I told him I've already used multiple agencies and have had headaches with each one. So my approach to staffing is just fine.
With multiple agencies, we thought we had our staffing needs covered.
I had negotiated a super low rate to save on labor costs.
And I could pursue my passions outside of work because I never had to stay overtime due to turnover, productivity, or training issues.
The agency sent quality people. Well, they sent people. Sometimes.
My love of language and lexicon languished.
I negotiated a super low rate.
Hey, the agency employees didn't show up, so we're short on staff again.
Bupkis. Curses. Fetch.
Hey, an agency sent an employee.
Do you have production experience?
I've produced YouTube videos. I'm hungry. When's my first break?
This is not sustainable. If you want happy customers and a healthy business, something's gotta change. So yes, we tried Yes.
Yes focuses on finding the right people for the right job.
Turnover is down, productivity is up.
Yes trains
Or onboards.
quality employees, ensuring they have the skills
Or proper work ethic.
our company needs to succeed.
Thrive.
Yes provides us with quality data so we don't have to juggle multiple agencies to fill our needs.
They could have doubled our rate.
No, they could not have.
Okay, maybe not doubled, but Yes's cost was cheaper in the end. They solved our problems, which were way more expensive than a few points on rate.
I'm just happy that Yes provides us with good people.
Great employees to fill our workflow gaps.
And Yes brings them fast.
Yes specializes in production, warehouse, manufacturing.
And I love that Yes focuses on workplace safety.
Yes also offers services like time clock and
Payroll services, forklift drivers, pickers, packers, general labor.
I like how Yes customizes their screenings to our needs.
I love that we've hired many Yes employees as
Short-term, direct hire, seasonal work, part-time, full-time,
and long-term members of our company.
I love partnering with Yes. No more gaps in production, and I can focus on efficiency without stressing about costs or people. Yes really has
revolutionized.
changed our approach to staffing. Our people are happy.
Your customers are happy.
And that makes me
Delirious.
happy.
Delighted.
Happy.
Thrilled.
Happy.
Cheerful. Gratified. Ecstatic.
Happy. He said happy.
Sunny. Jovial. Tickled. Pleased.
Happy.